Welcome to the Modern Assyrian on AGN. My name is Carmen Morad. Today, I am delighted to have two very important scholars and activists that are going to have a conversation about the Assyrian genocide curriculum that will be taught in schools. Today, with me are Morgan Blum Schneider of the Holocaust Center based in San Francisco, California, but they serve the entire state. Welcome to the program, Morgan.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
And also Dr. Ramina Jajoo from Phoenix, Arizona, director of the Seyfo Center. Welcome both of you to the program.
Thank you, Carmen. It's great to be here. Great seeing you again.
It's a pleasure to have you on. You know, when we talk about this very important topic of genocide, it's not an easy topic to talk about, yet we have a responsibility to remember and reflect. And as a part of this conversation, to teach, to educate. And what I am really excited about is to hear from first Dr. Ramina Jajoo, because we've had her on the program before. We are familiar with where the work began. And Ramina, please share with us this very important project that you have been working on and what we need to know about it.
Carmen, as you know, and I want to remind some of your audience that Seyfo Center started in 2004 in Europe and branched out to the US and to Arizona at the same time in 2011. And our mission and vision is to advocate, educate, and serve the Assyrian community. You and I and Dr. Sabro Bengar, who's the founder of Seyfo Center, we've done advocacy work, but a big chunk of our work is actually educating the public, teachers, and students about the Assyrian genocide. And when I talk about Assyrian genocide, we don't just talk about the genocide of 1915 by Ottoman Turkey, but we also talk about the Semele massacre of 1933 by Iraqi government, or the ISIS invasion in 2014. So the main focus of our work is to keep this education about this topic alive, going, and we want to educate people. We want to know what's happened to the Assyrian people and why are we so dispersed? Why are we still being persecuted? And one of the ways of doing that was to actually develop a curriculum for high school students. As you know, in 2021, I connected with Dr. Erin Hughes, who will hopefully join the program shortly. And her and I started talking about developing this curriculum. She reached out to Professor Hannibal Travis. They are wonderful scholars that have been teaching the Assyrian genocide at the college level. And they were the most qualified people that we could find to actually develop a curriculum for high school students. A lot of the states in the US actually mandate that Holocaust and other genocides to be taught in high schools. And this needs to be done in Arizona twice throughout high school. In 2024, I believe it was, that the curriculum was approved by the Arizona Department of Education. And then earlier this year, Illinois State Board of Education approved it. And now we're working on getting it approved in California, hopefully with the help of California Teachers Collaborative.
That is so exciting. We always in Turlock, where Dr. Erin Hughes is the associate professor of the Modern Assyrian Heritage Project. We work very closely with her. That department has done Assyrian genocide awareness events, and they continue to raise awareness on the Assyrian genocide. But how important is it to teach? I'd like to bring in Morgan Blum Schneider to the screen now. And I'd like to welcome you. And I want to start with something that I read about you that really touched me, that you lead a team that inspires teachers, students, and individuals to be socially responsible and morally courageous. Can you elaborate on that as you introduce yourself to our viewers and talk about this passion that you have to inform and educate on genocide?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to connect more deeply with the Assyrian community here in California. When we say moral courage and social responsibility, those are not just words for us. Those are words we wish to see in action. How can we take these lessons from the past and not just have a historical background, but how will they inform and influence the way we live our lives today? We are passionate to reach students in secondary education. That's grades 6 through 12. And this is a really formidable time in a young person's life. Not all young people will go on to college. And most of our students in California today are graduating from high school, which our state is very proud of. And it's important that these lessons they have in the classroom feel transferable into their everyday lives. How will they treat the person that they see waiting at the bus stop, that speaks a different language, that has a different style of dress, that has a different color of skin? We want to think about the lessons in the classroom and how these young people will advocate for the rights of other minority groups. And we at the JFCS Holocaust Center and with the California Teachers Collaborative are dedicated to elevating the underrepresented voices of genocide experiences. So I feel grateful and honored as a Jewish person to go into bookstores around the world and see books about the Holocaust. However, that's not the case for many different groups who experience genocide. And the Assyrian genocide is one of those cases. It's underrepresented in the larger space. And through this partnership, we hope to make that change. We hope to see a transformation and an increased awareness about this important history.
Absolutely. We always talk about what genocide is. We talk about what the signs of genocide are, where the word came from, and how, as we speak today, there is genocide and ethnic cleansing happening in the world. Imagine the 21st century, and this is still continuing to happen. However, we have to tell our history, especially the Assyrians living in diaspora. It is our responsibility to tell the stories, oral history, what we have been able to learn. We call it generational trauma. Dr. Ramina and I and our parents, we are descendants. We are children and grandchildren and great grandchildren of genocide survivors. For example, where we grew up, we heard the stories. It was oral history. And I remember the first time I ever learned of the atrocities that were happening and happened to my people through poetry, expression of art. And as I got older and I learned more, and of course, living in the United States, we have the freedom of this education. And it is so important that Assyrians and non Assyrians learn about this history so we understand why it's happening again. The mass deportations, the forced deportations that are happening still to our ancestral homeland. I would like to, Morgan, begin with asking you about how does this curriculum come to be and the scholars that are involved. I know Dr. Hannibal Travis, we've worked with them before at a few of our events, but how does the curriculum come to be, knowing what age is the right age to teach children about what genocide is and how it begins?
I appreciate that question. It has to be done in a very thoughtful way. And our belief is that strong genocide education begins in the early years with an understanding of a peoplehood. So before we go into the tragic history of a genocide of a people, we want our students to appreciate the rich and beautiful culture of a people and have that as the foundation. When we talk about the Holocaust, we say one should not meet a Jewish person the first time in Auschwitz. You should meet the richness of a people, and that work can begin as early as preschool. So our goal, while we focus on secondary education, we do encourage and provide resources to teachers in elementary school to learn and appreciate the beauty of a people. And from that foundation, when they're age appropriate in middle school, is when we begin to define genocide, to identify the stages of genocide, and to understand the patterns. Because we believe deeply not in a hierarchy of suffering, but in an opportunity to identify these patterns, patterns such as dehumanization, patterns like propaganda. And through that, we can help our students, essentially, we thread the needle in the classroom to help them build the foundation of who are these people. Let's understand and know them as people, not as victims. And then let's start to understand some of the patterns and the early warning signs of genocide. And that helps us build a foundation to get to the point, as we said earlier, to make morally courageous and socially responsible young people through those lessons of genocide. And we lean most on primary source material. So whether it be testimony, documents, photographs, physical artifacts, it is those items which have the greatest impression, because we say students learn best through their heart, not their head. And when they can hold the story of an individual in their hands and in their heart, we believe those become lasting impressions.
That is very true. You know, I want to share something that I chaperoned my son's eighth grade class to Washington, D.C., and we visited the Holocaust Museum. And when you see the pile of the glasses and the shoes and how it captures, how it humanizes what we've been reading and what we've been discussing. And you're right, it is something that with image, with, again, I always mention this through art, through poetry, through visual learning. It's something that sometimes it's easier to hear or to see something rather than to hear it, because it needs to be introduced. It needs to be understood. And one of the things with Sabro, who is a dear friend, Dr. Ramina knows that we worked on a few projects together with him years ago. And it was not easy to start a conversation on genocide. But through the years, it has been normalized. It has been in our nation, we have one day that we commemorate to reflection. It is the day that we all gather. It is a global day for us, but it has become more of an ongoing advocacy. And this is why Seyfo Center does such amazing work. It's not just one day a week, Ramina, right? It is an ongoing calling, and to be the voice for the voiceless, and to educate and to reflect and never forget. With your personal experience, Ramina, as we all have connections to genocide, how does this impact you as someone who has experienced it, I'm sure, through your grandparents?
Carmen, that's a very good question, and as you know, and with you and I have talked about this. My grandparents lost 20 members of their family in the genocide of 1915. They lost them to diseases. They lost them on the road on their death marches. They lost family members that were practically killed and shot. So it's very personal for me. And for me, it's something that I do every day, 7 days a week. There's no break. There's no weekday as opposed to weekend. We take phone calls. We do text messages. We send emails. We are constantly working on this topic. So it's very important to me, and I'm very blessed to be a voice for those who are voiceless. But more importantly, I hope that through our work, people become aware of the fact that the Assyrian nation is still going through genocide. What's really interesting about the genocide that's happened to the Assyrians is that we've never been able to recover. My grandparents were refugees. My parents were refugees. I was a refugee. So it's never ending. It's as recent as 2014, 11 years ago. A lot of people may not know that when ISIS entered Syria and Iraq, over 1 million Assyrians were displaced. Who talks about that? And we don't have the ability to recover because we don't have an autonomous protected region so we can self-govern and protect ourselves. So it's important that we get this message out there to powers that be. I think it's important that we pay attention to smaller groups like us, smaller communities that are still suffering. And I think that the younger generation can learn from this experience that if a nation is not protected, if a people are not protected, then for sure they're going to die out. Then genocide will be successful and will achieve its ultimate goal and completely decimating a nation or a group of people. So it's important that we pay attention and we teach this to younger people. We never know how soon and how early we can start. How young is too young to talk to a child about genocide, but we have to use the age appropriate language, of course. Morgan knows way more about that than I do. One of the challenges that we have in terms of developing the curriculum is that we don't have enough oral testimonies. But with the help of California Teachers Collaborative, we're learning as to how to approach people, perhaps people who are G2 and G3, meaning that they are the descendants of genocide survivors, how to collect oral testimonies from them, because those are important. And hopefully we'll gather more information and more data, and we'll make it available to the teachers in California and also teachers in Arizona and, of course, in Illinois.
I'm so glad you brought up the responsibility and the legacy that the descendants carry. It comes through very clear in both of you with your passion and that it drives your advocacy work and your passion for education. You know, this is an opportunity for our communities to connect. I'll go back to about 10 years ago when we began training our descendants, our second and third generation, to be able to tell the stories of their parents and grandparents who survived the Holocaust. And I look to our Armenian colleagues to guide us in this practice because, of course, as with the Assyrian genocide, the Armenian genocide was more than 100 years ago, and the survivors had since passed away, the firsthand witnesses. And it was learning from them how they were training their descendants that gave us an outline and really thinking about the large ethical dilemmas that descendants carry and how they can best hold on to the moments of inspiration. We encourage the descendants that share testimony not only to talk about the dark moments of their family history, but also the resilience, because we want them to help inspire our students and our other audiences to walk away with an understanding. What did it mean to rebuild the life? What did it mean to learn a new language and to come to a new country as a refugee and to hold that identity and to hold that legacy. And I think this is one of the many ways that our communities can work together, how we can learn together to teach each other, because we're in this for the long haul. Humanity needs us. We need to help our young people put down their phones, to move away from TikTok, to pick up a book and to listen to a testimony and find a connection with history. One of the tools that we're guiding California teachers is media literacy and critical thinking skills. And those two components are essential in the field of genocide studies, because if one cannot decipher what is accurate, what is misinformation, we know that there are many governments around the world that deny and to, misinform about an accurate case of genocide. And it's important that our young people learn how to identify those signs. And to get there, we need to help empower our California teachers. So it is our role in the California Teachers Collaborative to help come with lessons, to come with primary sources, but also to help to provide skills so that they can have the confidence to enter into these complicated conversations in their classrooms and to advocate with their school administration and their district administration. And we've been successful with that through our partnership with the state of California. We're very proud of our state. We were the first state to pass legislation to mandate the teaching of Holocaust and Genocide, 1985. So we're the first state. And we are the first state to establish legislation and an official partnership with the California Department of Education to teach about genocide in secondary classrooms. And this partnership allows us to have a systematic approach. And our goal is to reach each and every school district in the state of California. But I encourage our listeners that are here with us to think about the role that they can play in ensuring that each and every school district has the ability to connect their teachers with these resources and education, because we can't do this alone. That Seyfo is one of 15 organizations in the collaborative. Our incredible state of California is funding the collaborative and has put the seal of approval on the work that we're doing. And that goes a distance and is a loud statement. It tells our teachers and our schools that genocide education is not an optional course of study, but it is a priority and it is a mandate. And I'm proud that our state just passed legislation, SB 472, which will require the Department of Education to notify all schools and districts in our state of this mandate that was passed in 1985. Because unfortunately, even though it was passed, it's not familiar to many of our schools in our community. But we need our passionate members of our community in every county around the state to be our partners in this work.
Morgan, you said a call to action. What is the call to action that is required, for example, by our viewers, by the Assyrian community, to give the support to the amazing work that Seyfo Center has already initiated, and to work with partners such as yourself? Because I'll tell you something, one of the things that the Assyrian community has always been deeply concerned about is others writing our history. When others write our history, then it's no longer our voices. It's no longer our oral history or our stories that need to be told. So that's why the curriculum is so important. That's why the work of Seyfo Center is so important. I have been told by many people that have books that they have held on to that they would never donate to a library. I was told that he said, there are individuals that look for these books, they check them out and never return them. So there are so many ways of genocide deniers that can be a hurdle, they can be an obstacle. What is the call to action that you would like to see in our community?
Thank you for asking. I will say that one of the strongest ways to fight denial and misinformation is confidence in history and understanding the facts and having the ability to feel that you can counter someone who is coming at you with denial. So I'll say that. So the more we can invest in our young people throughout the state and having a strong command and knowledge of the history of the Assyrian genocide, that I believe will be one of our strongest tools against hate and denial. But to reach those students and to support the teachers in the classrooms, we need to call upon all of our California residents. We need to ask them to be ambassadors for this work. Perhaps you have a child in a local school. Perhaps you have a grandchild in a local school. Maybe your neighbor is a teacher in a school or a principal. We need to think about our personal relationships, because while we can have, hundreds and thousands of names on a mailing list, to receive an email or a phone call from someone you don't know is very easy to ignore. But to connect with your neighbor, with your child's teacher, to someone who you volunteer with, who you belong to a church with, those personal relationships are what get the job done and to help establish that relationship. So the questions I would say, and I'll encourage you to visit our website, and I'll share the link, is to make an introduction for us. Did you know that there's an organization that can offer free professional development for teachers? Perhaps your school wishes to teach about the Assyrian genocide. Maybe they don't know that April 1st is this important day of recognizing the Assyrian New Year, which Ramina just taught me about, which is wonderful, because I think we don't only want to recognize the dates of genocide commemoration, but we also want to recognize the dates of celebrating who the Assyrian people are and the beautiful history. When I go into my own children's classrooms and in the fall and I teach about the Jewish New Year, I ask all the kids to share, when do you celebrate your New Year? And we hear about the Lunar New Year, and we hear about all these different wonderful New Years. And that's an important moment for our students to see that the world is round and there are people in all different spaces, and we have to appreciate. Like I always say, I spin an apple and I say, where's the start and the end to this apple? And it's in that moment that they realize no person's New Year is the correct and the accurate and the right New Year, that each one has a right perspective on the world. So I think it's important for us to think about moments of connecting and celebrating a people and a culture. And I call upon this wonderful community, thank you for inviting me, to think about your neighbors, think about the people you know at church, think about the people that you work with, and say, will you help me be an advocate, and will you connect me with a teacher and provide? We'd love to see Assyrian teachers come and join us this summer in June. Seyfo Center will be presenting workshops at Institute for California Teachers. We'll have 140 teachers from all around the state come together to study the patterns of genocide for 3.5 days. I hope to see teachers from your community with us this June.
I do too. And where we live in Stanislaus County, where CSU Stanislaus is, we are a very active community. We are close to our elected officials. We do have teachers, high school teachers. We are also working on an initiative to have the Assyrian language be taught in high schools. So, in fact, Mr. Isaac Farhadian, who I believe is one of the teachers that you are aware of, he is an AP teacher. He teaches US government and also is a proud Assyrian that has started the Assyrian Club at Pittman High School, one of the high schools in Turlock that has the largest population of Assyrian students. So we have our high schools, we have our middle schools with large populations of Assyrians. We also have junior colleges and the university. So this is a conversation that will continue. It takes a lot of advocacy, which has already begun. It takes partnerships, Morgan, with you and your organization. But I am very excited. I follow what Seyfo Center does in Arizona. And this is, as I said in the beginning of our conversation, It is so meaningful. This is more than just once a year that we remember the victims. We also have a day that we remember our what we call martyrs, those valiant, those courageous men who perished defending their identity, their ethnicity, their heritage and faith. And we have ongoing advocacy for them. But what you are doing is education. You know, Seyfo means the sword, right? And we always talk about what that means. Our Seyfo today is education. The sword that we use for our resiliency, for fighting assimilation, because assimilation is inevitable, especially in the West. But we also thrive in diaspora. And this is the perfect example of what advocacy, partnership, collaboration looks like to again to be a voice for the voiceless, for those who perished. And Morgan, I'm sure Dr. Ramina has shared with you the complexity of our nation. We come from different countries. Genocides have happened in different regions. You know, we have our ancestral homeland in Iraq, but there's also a lot that has gone on in Syria, which is also part of the Assyrian Empire, but that's another program. Forced migration and genocide and forced marches have forced our people to be all over the place. But as we thrive in diaspora and particularly in the United States, it is you amazing leaders with what you do that I am so proud of to be in this conversation with you. And I am hoping our viewers, whether it is in English, and Ramina and I will continue this conversation in Assyrian. It is important and vital for those who do not speak English, for those who are older, to know that this is happening. Ramina knows what I'm talking about. There are those who have survived genocides. There are those who are here because of what has happened to them, of what we just discussed. And we will have this conversation in their native language to make sure they know that their voice is finally being heard.
I so appreciate that. And before I leave you today, I just want to say there are so many opportunities of connection. Ramina and I had the chance to have coffee together just last week. And my family was from Aleppo, Syria. And we were part of a Jewish minority in Aleppo. And my grandfather and his brothers and his family had to flee persecution. And they came as refugees to the United States. And often when I share this story with students, they're surprised and say, "You don't look Syrian. I didn't know you were from Syria." And the other part of my family is from Shanghai, China. And they were Jewish refugees from Russia through Shanghai. And so I think it's important that we know where we come from, and that helps guide us to know where we're going. And for me, I want to think about the points of connection and the points of relationships that we can build, because this helps us go further to amplify our voices. And we at the California Teachers Collaborative are so proud and honored to be incubators of smaller projects like Seyfo Center in California, because together our voices are louder, we can move mountains together. And we always want to stop and think about, what points do we have representing different minority and marginalized groups? What points of connection do we have that we can be stronger together? And that's the model that I want to set for our next generation, because I believe that's how we truly help them find their moral courage and social responsibility. I'm honored to be part of this conversation today, and I look forward to sharing many recipes and meals and learning opportunities together.
Thank you, Morgan. That was a beautiful closing statement. I would like to invite you to always return to continue the conversation, to continue this endeavor. I would like to see more of what this will look like when it's actually being taught. I would like to actually be able to sit in the classroom when this is being taught. So it's an open invitation for both of you to return.
Thank you. Thank you, Carmen. Can I add just one more thing that we will be having virtual webinars, training webinars for teachers, but we will also have in-person classes, and Dr. Aaron Hughes will be teaching those. And those will take place in California, probably in Sacramento, and San Jose, probably in Turlock. So we want people to be aware of those and watch out for them. And we will send out information, as will the California Teachers Collaborative. Thank you for this opportunity. And I look forward to our Assyrian segment together.
Absolutely. Thank you, Morgan, for taking time and being here. Thank you for sharing your personal story. And as I always say, thank you for doing what you do, for being the voice for the voiceless. I look forward to having future conversations with you. Thank you for being here. This concludes my conversation with Morgan Blum Schneider. We will now switch to the second phase of our conversation on this very important topic with Dr. Ramina Jajoo in Assyrian. دكتور رامينا جاجو رابا بغداين قد شغلتوت أبرست همزمت قماويلا من برسوبة قد بلختت منه من سيفو سنتر جو أريزونا أشولا شابيرت وادتون الروخت سهدن الروخت أوهاتن قد بيشنا بريمة إن بس مالخ بلشانت جانن قبل أمتن مضي أشولا ميك الشريالة و مودي بغزايد قداتيت قد بخزخ ملبتت برام ألمت جانن جو مدرشيات وقملبتت أسكلاي.
يقرأ كارمن رابا بغداين أموخن إيفان وأم خرزة AGN ومودرن أسيريان وشلامة بدراين قبنهم تن مخبة أخ بدايتون أخنن أخ سيفو سنتا ينقدرون سيبا جوشيت تريال بي أربا جو يوروب شوريلان وجوشيت تريال بي خدسر باوت أمريكا وباوت أريزونا بيشلون شتسن أنا اندبرنت باوت أريزونا وبحر هذا غزة بيش غدية أخ قنطرونة بوصايو تالقت الأما آتورايا وويتم بالخانة من داها باوا جو من شيت تريال بتمانصر وكي جار بخلا من ديانو دخ اتقامت ودخل مت قبناهم تن مخبة ادتري ملبخ قناش خينة بوتقت الأما آتورايا وهر هذا غزة ملبخ قبنا أمتن نوم تدجانا قبنونا ناتن قد لخير بوسنا بوتقت الأما آتورايا وهر هذا غزة كتاب بصمناخ خرزة أودخ بلخخ من legislators أودخ advocacy بلخانة بريشة كودخ research كي بصمناخ كتابة أخ بداية كتابة قيال سورة قيال قامت أخنا ويلان أن organization وشت قد كتب لن كتابة قيال سورة من 5 هالأجاشنة بلشانة إنجلس وبلشانة آتورايا وبلشانة داتش وجرمن قد إينا بوتقتل أما آتورايا قد يالسورا من سروتا يلبي بداها شربة أبنت إلى رابا ممريانا إنا أنا قايل قد ملبخلون باليابخ من إنواتخينم يقرتا كارمن باليابخ قد آمن دي داخي ملبخل قبنوم تدقانا قيال السورا قد شورا قد جهلا اللايمات ورابا بغداين قد بالخانخ من إنواتخينم مخ هويداية مخ أرمناية وتناشي قد معلوبنا بود بوزنيان جينوسايد بود رواندان جينوسايد إمن مني بالخانخ باليابخ قد داخي شولا لبلخ للقامة ورابا بغداين قد أوديو أموخوني من قد خجو برزودة نهارة يفن قبنا ومتان مخبة
باسم ترابا هجيالخ بيخا الخراب شابرتا قد كما أنا نقيت لدن بالخانك مويدالة كما أنا نقيت لدن أشولا بالخانة ليلة أخشي شيتا خاجة ليلة أخشي يدن بجمايخ تابويخ كنده او أبنت أنا نقيت لأشولا ودخله سبب كنت خلت لي بشرتا او إدانا او أختانخ او سودا سبب أشولا رابا أنا نقايلة قد بخا أرخدخا organization Seyfo Center أشولا شريتولا و أديا بيتون established أخا organization قد لا أخشي advocacy بعدتون إنا معلوبتون connections وايوخونيلة إذن أنا قريلي بعد ذا شغل شابيرة رومينا قد شريوتون قد ملبتت برام المدين سبب بشنه وشنه نخراي كتيبه با باز تشقيت ديان إنا عادية باين بقرن مناخ قد عادية قشقانا المغبة بلكي تخمون نبايطي بمود أرخا تشقيت ديان بيشا ملبتا قمود شنه يلسورة أوجو مد مدرسة
ياشق أنا بتهمزمان أخشي بود كاليفورنيا سبب أختوني تونجو كاليفورنيا كاليفورنيا قانونه بطلاب اللي قد هولوكاست و جينوسايد بيشي مقرية تريقاهي جمتخت كلاس من اشتهل تريسر أدي داخي أنا بتبيشي مقرية مجد كليتل al school district كل district خا قانون جانو أتله إن إباسوتا قامت أهلا قد مدد curriculum أخنا قرقزوخ وداخل كتيبوخ قامت بيشا approved بتا وقبلتا بيد California Department of Education وأن Departments of Education كود خامنة إتلون standards إتلون قانون قد داخل خا curriculum بيدك بيشا كتبتا وداخل بيشا مقريتا عادية بالخانة خال كاليفورنيا ستاندردز قد إن الرابا ياريخي وإن الرابا ديتيل إن على خامديت قديا لها بمتمسيانا سبب أوب ستاندرد أريزونا إيفا رابا ياريخ رابا خيلانة إن كل خاخة أكتاني ميت بدانا كل خاخة أن ستاندردز بشران مصليخ من curriculum هذا خزي ستيتد إلينوي ما صح عشولا داخل كاليفورنيا إيمت curriculum بيش قبلتها كاليفورنيا بيت California Department of Education إيجي كليتلا الرابية وكليتلا السكول districts قد إيمن مقريلا داخل مقريلا كما شباتي كما يوماني كما ساعات مقريلا مجد كل district إلى برشتا وآدمي قلتا كارمن آتن بخشاون أنا من ديانا رابا سباي بداية سبب آتن زي جوخا شويلخينة جوخا خقلخينة بملابت ليشانا مدرسة من school districts بالخانة كليتلا السكول district والرابع نقيت هلا أخمي قرطة مورغان من Jewish Family and Children's Services قد هقيلة رابع نقيت هلا قد كنت خامنا بارسو بايت هم زمخ من رابية هم زمخ من legislators هم زمخ من school districts من شوابن من خزمانة من دوست من مود connections إتلان هم زمخ وطلبخ منه قد أنا درسات بيشي مقرية من كلاسة اشتهل كلاسة تريسر خامن دي خينا زليلا لازم او هاي سكول تيتشر يعني قد إلى مقروية قد توصى history ليلا لازم أخشي آون مقريلا آها curriculum كامس أوب language teacher English language teacher مالبلا كمسي قد توصى ناشد بود economics مالوبنا كمسي مبلخيلة economics بأرخة economics مغزية economics genocide قامودي genocide فايلة بدأ أرخماسي مضيلة قيالو بيان introduce أوديلا بأرخت art teachers كمسي عاشولا أوديلا أدية بالخانخ الحكمة materials من ديانا قد بأرخت art بتمتاخن يو curriculum قد انخا art teacher باي آمن دي مالبلة أفيلا material أفيلا من ديانا قد ماسا مغزيلون قيالو بديه بخشان خجبوقا جوابي ياريخ باينت لي هي بيوم بقارخ جببتو
رابو بغداين سبب جري يلبخ إن الشلانة ودخلون البد بقاري إيبا مودي لباو توخون سبب إتن أرخاي بريشة قد كتبت كتابة قد توصى Office of Education إتن خابر سوبا قد توصى كتاني إينا decision makers إتن خا committee خا board بموت أرخا البد أخنان emails أو telephone numbers متخلون الكاميرا قد خزيتون للشيشة إنا بداين قد قشقانا إتن عادية قد interest مجخنة إنا بقارب داوي أخلان مودخ أغمران من مورغان call to action أني كمسي قارقة توخن بايتون signatures وبايتون بموت أرخة سبب أنا همش صديقاتي ودا navigate وخشولا قد بدمايل تشاتون ودن هالسناي قبنا أمتن قد ألدوني شد بايغ ماطخ بموت أرخة کمسی گو کالیفورنیا من امتن آتورای اوی هایران قدانیش شبیر دیوخون.
كليتلا بنا أمتن مودي أدختينخ كليتلا مودي للشغلة قطوسة إد إنا اسكولاية إن خا student يو high school آخر زبغزايولة كامس أعزل تانا قرابيو أنا بياين بدا curriculum خدشة يلبن باين أختون مقريتون لقاتي أنا even يعني genocide descendant ورابع أنا قيت لقاتي قد حقيت دي يلبنا وملبنا وبيشا ملبتا قيالو بخينة إن إيتون رابية جو high schools يعني middle schools بلا من شيخ أهم دي كامس بايش ملبا جو middle school جو كاليفورنيا رابية كمسي من school districts هم زمي تلفونو دي تاني بزيمون اتن اها curriculum اخنا بايخ اها implement او داخله ناشدين بطلابنا قد اشولا او داخله ان ايتون اها كمسيتون من مدرسيات برخشتون مدرسيات ديالوخن برخشنا اها كمسيتون قرابية قاريتون school directors principals قاريتون تانيتون اخنا شمية خاهت خا curriculum اتن بيايخ مقريتون لا إن إيتون دبرانت شتابويات ين شت آسة ين دبرانت خرزة يدعاية مخديوخون قالن ممطمون له هلون لن برسات قد متى كلاسز قد توصى أخنا كم صخ متى كلاسز ودكتور إيرون هيوز كم سنة كلاسز مقريالون قال لا أخجيقة هاي سكول تيتشرز إنها قبل تتجانن قد برزو دا يلبي بداها كوريكولم وإمام رخشنا همزمي قطوسة إن باي همزمي من دبران مدرسيات ين سكول ديستريكس بوش بياطي بوش يلبانا بتعبيلون قد بتمودي همزمي من داي بوش أنا قيتم يقولتا كارمن أهلا قد كتفيلان إيميل أوديلان على resolution@seyfocenteraZ.com يشقيل بول خانن فولو أوديلان على السوشيال ميديا أخت قد يوخن فولو بعدنا على السوشيال ميديا وأختون أبيتون باسي مقالة يابتون قاتن يلبي بود بول خانن وكمت بوش زودة يلبي بود بول خانن بوش راحت طريقة بلخي منن إن أنا لا يطن بود أيجيان إذن تبلكت لا تخمنن بأتيان بالخرزوخن يعني إن أنا لا يطن بود بول خانة ديخ Modern Assyrian وعاد كما بلختت قاوم تآتوريتا من تيتد آتوراي جو بريشايت ستانسلاس كاونتي بلكت لا تخمنن بأتيان بالخرزوخن إنا إجد بول خانة خموي دالة بدايق قوي دالة بوش هسه ناي بايلة وبوش بتأزخ لقامة بكولابوريشن وبالخانة ميدالن
رابا دوز گو خوتاما دکتر رامينا جاجو ادمجد چه بوقتوخون ادبرانوتت قبلتوت اشوغ شابيرت وادوتون ادي اويا لشانن مقرتو گو مدرشياته اويا ملبتت تشئيتت جانن پریشاید اکتانق جنساید و بی ارخات پریشه چه بوقتوخون اشوغ شابيره بچادن قاتخ پقديتون مدره سبب همزمت دیان تازه شارویلا شول دیوخون تازه شارویلا ان اخنن ایجین مساقه و خیران قده قال شابیره مارم تو گبنه امتن اخنن ایوخ part of the collaboration اختانق ایوخ منوخون
قاسم ترابا عزستم يقول تكارما وكل بلاخت AGN مجد إقارة جور وقاتي قد أوين أموخون عبيتون باسي مع دانا يابوتون قاتن وإتلي هيبي قد عبيتون منتيانة بوش أنا نقيته من ملبته بتقل أمام يقول تكارمن إلى همزمتت لي شانن تخمن إن أنا آتن عادية لما صخوة همزمخوة داخي أجرتن أم مسج ديان ما صخوة ممضيخ ولا قبنا أمتن كل بنيات الدنيا كل آتوراي لهم زمي ليشان دينجلس أنا قيتها ليشانا نطرخلة إيمن ليشانا بنطاروخ لي ماسي قطليلا لي ماسي برقيلا أبيتون رابا بعسيمة
رابا دوست دنان منتن من دانخ دنان منتن من چلاشتخ او شولا پلخاند وادتون لأخشي قديخ او قكل تيم ديوخون جو سيفو سنتر أريزونا أديا بتايخ على ختام ده همزمتا بس برام ألما قد ات آتوراي قد باش جلدوتا مقريا جو مدرشياته بخزن نوخون جو خرزه بريش أنا إيوان كارمن موراد